WWE has put on a lot of shows this year, man. A lot of shows. None are more controversial than Crown Jewel tomorrow afternoon in Saudi Arabia. It's the one show that people are looking at to make a political stance. There are several in the community that are not covering the show. I know Steven Larson are not covering the show. They've said so. As far as I can see, they are not covering the show. Bryan Zane is not covering the show. CM Pulse is not doing a live reactions to the show like he usually does for the big pay-per-views. And probably, I would say, a handful of others are not doing a Crown Jewel coverage or a Crown Jewel review. I don't want to be in that boat, man. You guys know where I stand. I have firmly said, from what I can tell and what I think is the right thing to do, WWE should not hold the pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. I was one of those people that want the WWE to move the show somewhere else because there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of build, there's a lot of hype. Well, not build, but there's a lot of hype surrounding the return of Shawn Michaels. They could have picked anywhere else. There were rumors that it might be in the UK. There was rumors that it might be in New York City. Somewhere where they can sell tickets fast. WWE came out, and Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon management stated that they're going ahead with Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. So, I want to let you guys know that even though I am feeling a certain way about them moving the show, I am going to continue to cover the show. Because, believe it or not, Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement after 8 years for his first match back, to me, is a big deal. Even though the build is fucking horrendous. And when I look at Shawn Michaels, I die a little bit on the inside because that's not the Shawn Michaels that I remember. You know, that's not the Shawn Michaels that made me fall in love with professional wrestling. That's not the Shawn Michaels who I grew up idolizing and watching and wanting to be like when I was a fucking small child. I don't know who the fuck this is, but regardless of all that, Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement is a big deal, and I don't want to miss that. And as far as business goes, you know, Jerry feels a certain way. JD is going to do what's best for business, and what's best for business is to capitalize, especially after hitting 100,000 subscribers yesterday on Halloween, of all days, to capitalize on those audiences that are not going to hear a review from those other guys, and they might come on over here. So to me, I'm looking at it primarily as Shawn Michaels, because I want to see it, and I guess getting new eyes on my brand, and new eyes on what I do here, because there's a lot of shows that aren't going to be covering the show. So that's my stance right now on Crown Jewel. I will be doing this I guess, rumors and updates video, everything you need to know before Crown Jewel. And then Friday, we're going to be watching, live tweeting as always, and we're going to be covering the show after it's over, as always. So I guess that could be the unofficial off the script to start the weekend. We'll do Crown Jewel, and then we'll hit the regular scheduled programming on Saturday and Sunday. So that's what I'm looking forward to for the rest of the week. But I just wanted to give you guys that explanation because there was a few people asking me if I'm going to skip it like everybody else or cover it. I am going to cover it, and it's strictly for business reasons, man. But we're going to go over all the news and rumors leading into Crown Jewel. I got a ton of stuff to go over to get you guys ready. If you are going to be watching along with me, I got a ton of rumors. So we're going to sit down here today and go over everything for you guys to get ready for Crown Jewel on Friday. I want to thank you guys so very much for all the support, man. We just hit 100,000 subscribers yesterday. Big deal. You know, I didn't really make a big deal of it on social media. I want to wait till I actually am, I would say, in the running for a play button. YouTube has to email me. And when I get the play button, that's when the official celebration begins. So I'm waiting on word from that. And as of right now, I just want to say thank you to everybody that reached out to me, man. It was an unbelievable outpouring of support on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I want to thank everybody who I know professionally in this community. I want to thank all you guys for sticking with me, man. The stories that I heard yesterday And the length of time that you guys have been with me on this journey, man, from 3,000 subscribers, 13, 14,000 subscribers, to people who just subscribed last month because of things that they heard from other podcasts, or just for the simple fact that you were looking up reviews on YouTube and you happened to stumble across mine and you found me. But either way, man, however you found me, I want to thank you guys so very much, man. I ain't stopping, man. In fact, this entire thing is making me a little bit more hungrier than ever before. So I want to thank you guys so very much. And the content will be coming. The content is going to be there always for you guys. So thank you so very much for all that, man. If you guys want to follow me on social media, please do so. Everything you need is right there in the layout. So make sure you guys subscribe and follow me on social media. Become one of the 100,000 strong here on the podcast. Thank you all so very much for that. I am going to just shout out Harry's because I am obligated to, man. And then we'll spread the ads and the plugs throughout the show, man. Harry's, you guys know the deal. Harrys.com/script is your unique link for off-the-script listeners only for your free trial shave set. Harry's is an official sponsor of the show. They sponsor everything that I do. And you guys are going to get a free trial shave set for nothing, man. Absolutely nothing. All you guys have to do is pay the shipping and handling, and it will be delivered right to your front door, man. 3 different colors right there. You got the blue, you got the orange, and the green. I got all 3 of them because it's a fantastic product. But if you guys want the best shave of your life, man, what you're going to get when you use our unique link, you're going to sign up, go to harrys.com/script. You're going to get a blade, a handle, a razor blade protective case, and the foaming shave gel, which soothes and hydrates, man. That is the best shave of your life. It is awaiting you, my friend. Go and sign up. And listen, man, you know, it's November. Before you know it, Thanksgiving. Before you know it, Christmas. Christmas shopping has already started for some people, man. Believe it or not. I think you're a weirdo, and I fucking hate Christmas. I am the Grinch. I am Scrooge. But regardless of that, you guys can certainly get this, and it would make a great stocking stuffer, man. So please, go out and support Harry's. Harrys.com/script. And I guarantee you, man, I tell you all the time, I never put my name to anything unless A, I use it, and B, I absolutely believe in it. Harry's is something that I use, and I use every week, and I believe in the product, man, and you guys will feel the same way as well. Harrys.com/script. Go and get your free trial just for listening to Off the Script, man. Thank you guys so very much. Let's get on with the news and rumors, man. There's a ton of stuff to go over, and I want to hit this and attack this the best way that I can. We are going to start off with John Cena. We're going to start off with John Cena, man, because this is the biggest thing going into Crown Jewel outside of the announcement of Hulk Hogan, which is also driving people away from not watching the show. John Cena doesn't want to work the show. John Cena stated to WWE that he will not be working the show, and the reasons are John Cena's discretion. He doesn't want to work the show because he's given 13 years of his life to WWE, and in this one instance, he doesn't want to do it because he believes WWE should have A, canceled the show, or B, moved the location of the show elsewhere. He don't want to be in the country for whatever reason, and it has to do with him. He don't want to risk his Hollywood career. Simple as that. He don't want to be looked at in a new industry that he's just getting his feet wet in. And I believe that John Cena is making the best business decision for himself. And there's nothing wrong with that. John Cena has given 13 years of his life to WWE. Him missing one show for the sake of them putting... The only reason why John Cena was on this show was because he's John Cena. And he's the biggest name, or one of the biggest names in the WWE, one of the biggest names in the world of professional wrestling. So, he wasn't going to win the World Cup. He wasn't winning a major championship. He was only being there because of his name value alone. And he don't want to risk that, even though his family is the WWE. He don't want to risk that and turn off people for a possible movie role in Hollywood, or movie roles in Hollywood. You can't blame him for that. So, John Cena is not going to be working Crown Jewel, but the official storyline reason for WWE to pull John Cena is completely lame. Now, if you watch Monday Night Raw, John Cena was replaced in the World Cup tournament by Bobby Lashley. Baron Corbin did this to draw heat on himself to strengthen the idea that he's a heel general manager. And by the way, I didn't mention this on Monday Night Raw review. How great does Baron Corbin look with the Universal Championship around his shoulder? He looked pretty damn good, man. And I got news on that on this weekend's podcast because WWE has major plans for Baron Corbin moving forward, and there's a feel backstage that Baron Corbin could be one of the biggest heels in the WWE and how they feel about him moving forward. But he did this to draw heat to himself, to strengthen the idea that he's a heel general manager, but WWE certainly went out of their way to not make Cena's reason for not attending Crown Jewel too complicated. So WWE didn't want to make it too complicated, but they also, went ahead and it just presents itself as, there's no logic behind it. So there was reasons that both Cena and Bryan had for not attending Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, and it looks like they were enough to cause them to cancel their travel plans. Bryan Alvarez explained on Wrestling Observer Live that WWE didn't really do much of a job explaining why Cena was pulled from the event, except for the fact that he didn't qualify. He says, and I quote, "What they did backstage, in a backstage segment, where Baron Corbin says, 'Lashley, you're in the tournament.' Lashley said, 'Why?' Corbin said, 'Cena didn't qualify. He's out.' That was it. That's what it took to get John Cena, the biggest star of the 2000s in WWE, off of the Crown Jewel show." Now, that doesn't make any sense because John Cena didn't qualify, and they replaced John Cena with Bobby Lashley, who also didn't qualify. So I don't understand WWE's logic there. John Cena didn't qualify, yes. He was only in the tournament, like I said, for name value alone, and the fact that, I guess, per WWE storyline, he's a free agent, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But Bobby Lashley, he had a rematch with Finn Balor, which put everybody to sleep, and qualified for the fucking tournament, because he beat Finn Balor up after losing. So I don't understand WWE's logic there. They replaced one guy who didn't qualify with another guy who didn't qualify. Lame. Bobby Lashley actually makes the tournament worse, if you ask me. That's just my honest opinion. So, Bobby Lashley, I know, is not winning the tournament, and he's going one-on-one with Seth Rollins. If Bobby Lashley cannot make me care about a Seth Rollins match, then this guy is a completely lost cause. And I don't expect much from it anyway. I don't expect much from this entire show, but I'm hoping that the tournament of it is at least exciting, and the winner gets more than just a lame trophy. And we see some actual legit competition for something that's being billed as, we're going to find out who the best in the world is. So, lame reason for John Cena being pulled, because they replaced him with someone who also did not qualify. Now, speaking of the first round, speaking of John Cena, Cena was scheduled to lose in the first round of the World Cup tournament at Crown Jewel. So, the plan was that the brackets were supposed to include Raw and SmackDown talent. It was supposed to be a Raw versus SmackDown talent in each bracket. So they changed that idea to have the brands face off only in the finals. So since after being given a generous offer, which I'll talk about in a second, to perform at the show, which he declined, Cena's plans and the entire tournament plans were changed. It turns out that even if Cena would have competed in the Crown Jewel tournament, the World Cup, he wouldn't have been working multiple matches. The Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that WWE had initially booked John Cena versus Rey Mysterio in the first round of the tournament, with Mysterio coming away with the big win. Now, to be honest with you, I actually think that doing Raw versus SmackDown talent in each bracket in the entirety of the tournament would actually, I guess, open up storylines, because the way I see it right now, you're putting Rey Mysterio against Randy Orton. I think that's a booking disaster, if you ask me. Randy Orton can't lose a match. The way he's being built up and the way he's being pushed, having Randy Orton lose in any which way is going to be a little step back in the progression of the new Randy Orton character that we're seeing on SmackDown Live. Rey Mysterio, I mean, it's self-explanatory for anybody watching the show. He's just come back. He's not going to lose a match. So WWE is going to have a booking conundrum with the Rey Mysterio-Randy Orton match. The Miz, I fully expect to beat Jeff Hardy. I'm expecting The Miz to go on and beat Jeff Hardy in the first round. Randy Orton versus The Miz really doesn't excite me. Randy Orton is another one of my guys to hopefully win the tournament, just because of the way he's been booked. But if I see it the way that they're lining it up, I see The Miz beating Jeff Hardy, and I see Rey Mysterio somehow beating Randy Orton, or at least getting by. I would hope it's just getting by Randy Orton. I don't want to see WWE pin Randy Orton. Maybe Randy Orton does something dastardly to the point where he gets himself disqualified. All I know is that Randy Orton's shoulders should not be pinned to the mat because of how he's been booked. On Raw's side, I could see Seth Rollins beating Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's probably just going to take the place of John Cena. John Cena, as per the Wrestling Observer, was not supposed to make it out of the first round. I see the same fate becoming of Bobby Lashley. Seth Rollins is going to be in there. Dolph Ziggler versus Kurt Angle. Who wants to see Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins again? I don't. We've seen that how many fucking times this summer? Give me something different. And with the way that Kurt Angle's being built up and the way he's hyping up this fucking tournament, foolishly saying that, oh, if I won the World Cup, it would be the greatest moment of my career. That's just political talk for WWE, just feeding bullshit to Kurt Angle to hype up a crown jewel event that really nobody gives a shit about. Or some people have a political stance on it, and the fact is that they're not going to be watching the show. So they are using Kurt Angle as a fucking puppet to explain how important this is to him in his career. I could see Seth Rollins versus Kurt Angle in the second round. And I could see Seth Rollins beating Kurt Angle, and that's as far as Kurt Angle goes. Seth Rollins in the finals with The Miz, I could see that. Seth Rollins in the finals with a Rey Mysterio, I could see that as well. Seth Rollins in the finals with a Randy Orton. If Randy Orton somehow slithers into the finals, I could see that. All I know is that Seth Rollins is going to be in the finals, and I know Kurt Angle, I think Kurt Angle mentioned in one of the previous interviews that he did over the past year since he came back, one of his dream opponents is Seth Rollins. So I think we will see Seth Rollins versus Kurt Angle in the second round of the tournament. But after that, it's anybody's ball game. But ultimately, in the end, I'm probably going to go with The Miz. And it would be wise if WWE went with The Miz because they could actually play that right into the storyline and have him be the best in the world. And all you need for The Miz at that point is to get him into the WWE title picture. Because there's no way he's going to be crowned the best in the world and not request a WWE Championship match. So you get him in there with the Styles and the Joes and the Bryans and build up that where they could take that to WrestleMania and build Bryan versus Miz for WrestleMania 35. So only time will tell when WWE can get John Cena to make any kind of return to the ring to wrestle any kind of match. But as you guys know already, it's been big news. He's not going to be in Saudi Arabia. Now, the generous offer to John Cena that WWE offered to reconsider working Crown Jewel. They don't give me a number or a specification on a number. They only say that it's very generous. So John Cena made the trip to the Greatest Royal Rumble. He even took the microphone after his match with Triple H and thanked the Saudi crowd and their government for their hospitality. The clip then was used against him in a big way as John Oliver last week used this to illustrate how WWE can't see human rights violations. That's their words. So as Cena's star in Hollywood is continuing to grow, it looked like he had a very important and difficult decision to make. So it's either damned if you do, damned if you don't here for John Cena. But I think as far as his career goes, he made a good decision. He may ruffle some feathers because of what he said. Why didn't he not, why did he work the Greatest Royal Rumble if that's the way he really feels? But with this situation, John Cena's not the only one who pulled out of Saudi Arabia. There are other people outside of WWE, other companies that pulled out. So he's making a business decision for himself. Maybe he felt differently back in April. Nobody knows. John Cena's going to do what John Cena needs to do. So he was promoted heavily as the participating first, individual in the World Cup for Crown Jewel, but he wasn't interested in taking the PR hit and boarding a plane to perform in front of the controversial government. So Brad Shepard reports that WWE offered John Cena another very generous deal to reconsider pulling out of Crown Jewel. This might have been why it took them 2 weeks to pull Cena from the show, but of course John Cena won't be seen in Saudi Arabia as if they could see him in the first place. It just goes to show that WWE was willing to spend even more money on the big event in Saudi Arabia, even though it didn't work for them this time in securing John Cena. Randy Orton even threw some cheap shots at John Cena when TMZ actually interviewed him before he boarded his plane. And TMZ asked, what do you think about John Cena not joining you guys in Saudi Arabia? And Randy Orton simply stated, does he still wrestle? I didn't know. And then he actually opened up to TMZ. He said, listen, I got 5 fucking kids and a wife at home. The money that I'm making for this show, I have to take care of my family first and foremost. That's what it is to all these people. These guys working this show are making more money on this show than they probably would all year. So they're going to do what they need to do for themselves. So if they're doing it for their families and Cena's doing it for his business and his image, then why don't you just leave well enough alone? Mind your own business, do what you need to do, and others will do what they need to do. Bryan and Cena don't want to go. Randy Orton and the others want to go because it's a money-making opportunity. Cena clearly doesn't need the money, and he doesn't want to take the PR hit. So respect each other's decisions. Simple. I just wish the show was moved to a more, I guess, wrestling-friendly crowd instead of having it be in front of these people that don't give a shit about the product. It still irks the shit out of me that we're seeing Shawn Michaels come out of retirement in front of this fucking crowd. You know, and it actually looks very bad on Shawn Michaels. It really does. If you poll 10 people, I think every fucking one of them will say that they're disappointed in Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement for his first match being here. Guaranteed. Mark Henry even reacted to John Cena and Daniel Bryan skipping Crown Jewel. Again, this goes back to, you know, people being, I guess, very company-like. Or I don't want to use the word shill, but in this case, you know, Mark Henry's being a corporate shill here. Mark Henry reacts to John Cena and Daniel Bryan skipping Crown Jewel. He spoke with TMZ and was asked about John Cena and Daniel Bryan's decision to skip Friday's Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. Henry mentioned that he would never say that anyone is making the wrong decision, but pointed out that he would never make the decision they are making because other people are hanging in the balance and he wouldn't want to screw them over. He says, and I quote, "Well, I wouldn't ever say that person is making the wrong decision. They're not. They're not making the wrong decision." But he goes on to say, "I would say that is not the decision I would make. I would stand by my guns and do what's good for business. John Cena is doing what's good for his business. You would do it differently. John Cena doesn't need Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel clearly needed John Cena. Let the guy do what he has to do. And the fact that John Cena worked 13 years of his fucking life and gave 13 years of his life to these people, for him wanting to miss one show for whatever reason is absolutely okay in my eyes." He goes on to say, "I'm a firm believer in not leaving people out to dry, and I've done a lot of things in my career and in my life, my personal life, where I could have said, you know, I'm not going to do that. But there are people hanging in the balance, and I didn't want to screw those people over. So that's the situation that this is in. The fans, they want to see you. Give our fans what they want." He's been giving the fans what they want for 13 years. John Cena doesn't need to do anything that he doesn't want to do. Simple. So that's the whole Cena thing regarding him in the World Cup and people just kind of shitting on him for missing Crown Jewel. It is what it is, man. So that was the biggest thing heading into Crown Jewel. Now, the other thing, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles had a match on SmackDown Live for the WWE Championship. They sped up and gave us Crown Jewel a little early on SmackDown Live this week. So WWE is now replacing Samoa Joe to go one-on-one with AJ Styles at Crown Jewel. This is probably just a fill-in. I don't think there really is any plans for Samoa Joe to win the title, even though I kind of pitched a really good idea for Samoa Joe to win the title. How would it look if Samoa Joe doesn't win the title from AJ Styles after all that he's been through? You know, time and time again, he's slowly ending up like Nakamura, who can't get the job done against AJ Styles. If Samoa Joe wins the WWE Championship, I think in my eyes, a match with Braun Strowman is a lot more interesting than a match with AJ Styles and Braun Strowman. Even if you want to revisit Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar at the Survivor Series, I would be okay with that as well. But I don't think WWE has any plans for Samoa Joe winning the WWE title at Crown Jewel. Dave Scherer noted on PW Insider Elite Audio in an update that Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles will likely turn out the way Styles versus Bryan was going to play out. He says, and I quote, "Now Joe's going to take on AJ. You know what's going to happen there. The same thing that happened everywhere else. If Joe wins the belt, then WWE has lost their minds and they deserve all the abuse in the world they can get." I think that's pretty fucking harsh from Dave Scherer to say that. Having Samoa Joe win the WWE Championship wouldn't be WWE losing their minds. It would actually be open for an interesting booking scenario moving forward to the Survivor Series. Plus, you're giving someone a title that I honestly think deserves it just for a little bit. Even if it's a transitional championship role. Give it to him. He goes on to say, because they have to do the title match because that's how they decided to go forward. They don't have to change AJ's title. So if they do that, then they've lost their minds totally and completely. So I don't think we're going to see that. End quote. Only time will tell how WWE books the Crown Jewel show. For all we know, the Crown Prince might sit down with Vince McMahon over dinner and take a look at Samoa Joe and say, I want Joe to win his match just because of the way he looks. I think he's got a great look. He's in the title match. Let's give him the title. So we don't know what WWE is going to do, but the odds are AJ Styles will be carrying the WWE Championship home with him from Saudi Arabia and continue his streak. Keep in mind that coming up on November 7th will be day 365 of AJ Styles' WWE title reign. Now, a lot of you guys have mentioned that AJ's not going to lose the title at all, and that he's going to hold the title to break CM Punk's record, which I don't even know why. A, we're still talking about CM Punk's 434 days. B, I don't know why WWE is worrying about CM Punk's title reign. You know, it's like a childish fucking way to go about it. Well, look, we got AJ Styles here. We're going to have him pass CM Punk, so CM Punk moves down the list on longest reigns of WWE Champion. You know, it's going to be one of those fucking deals. You know, like they're fucking snickering in the corner. Oh, look, AJ is going to break CM Punk's record. We're gonna have AJ move CM Punk down a notch on the world title reign record. Well, what difference does it fuck? CM Punk is still going to be there. When you look at the list, CM Punk is going to be on the list of longest reigns for WWE Champion. You can't erase that. I don't give a shit who passes him. It's fucking stupid. They even did it with Brock Lesnar. Or Brock Lesnar is the longest reigning champion of the modern era. Are you fucking kidding me? The guy hasn't even shown up on the show, you know, a handful of times, and you're bragging about his title reign. Plus, it was the Universal Championship, not the WWE Championship. And if you are a old school historian, you are not going to mix one with the other or combine the stats. There's one category for the WWE, and there's one category for the Universal. In this instance, we're talking about the WWE Championship, but I think it would be pretty lame to keep the title on AJ and kind of sabotage any type of plan that arises that could be beneficial to the show, to keep the title on AJ just to stick it to CM Punk, who's probably home fucking his wife and enjoying life without wrestling. Plus fucking his wife. Do I need to remind you who his wife is? So, I don't understand what everybody's getting up in arms about with CM Punk for. It's fucking ridiculous. The one thing that bothers me is that AJ Styles is the champion, and WWE has had a few opportunities to take the title off of him and have not done it. Now, I love AJ Styles next to everybody else, but, I mean, for the sake of storytelling or the sake of making the show better and giving me quality stories on SmackDown Live, they kept the title on him to brag about how he beat CM Punk's record. How does that make WWE look in your eyes? Childish. So, that's that. I wish Samoa Joe would win the title, just for the sake of having him a WWE champion. And it's not like we're not going to get good matches out of Samoa Joe as the WWE champion. Book towards Survivor Series and then worry about where you go after that, step by step. Have a long-term plan involved for Survivor Series and then come up and concoct a plan for after Survivor Series. It's easy to take the title off Joe without having him be pinned. Simple. So I think WWE should at least entertain the idea of Samoa Joe winning the WWE title. Daniel Bryan, the guy that Samoa Joe is replacing, the guy who don't want to fly to Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. They tapped him out clean on SmackDown Live. It remains to be seen whether this is a punishment. I don't think this is a punishment. They let these guys go out there on a TV night, SmackDown Live, and tear the house down. And I don't think it's going to be a punishment of any sorts. Why would you sign this guy to a long-term deal? Well, this is WWE, of course. I could see them doing this, but I mean, normal human beings, functioning normal human beings. Why would you sign this guy to ultimately punish him because he wants to stand his ground and not go to Saudi Arabia? You know, so I don't think Daniel Bryan's going to be punished, but I would not be surprised if they kind of keep him lingering in the mid-card. But the way SmackDown Live is looking, they don't really have a choice but to keep Daniel Bryan floating in the main event because they don't really have anybody else right now being built up for that spot. So Daniel Bryan, hopefully, is not going to be punished for his actions and him taking a stance. They gave us the match on Tuesday. What WWE almost did was make the Crown Jewel match an empty arena match. Now, they would have done this in the same vein that The Rock and Mankind did it. They would have filmed it beforehand in an empty arena, and they would have filmed it for Crown Jewel, and you would have seen it kind of just spliced into the show. I'm glad they didn't do that, because this feud definitely did not call for an empty arena match, and it would be absolutely a last-ditch effort, and I'm sure we wouldn't have gotten an explanation for it, last-ditch effort to just kind of keep Daniel Bryan on the show without having him be there in person. It would have been completely stupid, and the feud was only built over 2-3 weeks. An empty arena match is something that is a blow-off to a feud. So I don't know why WWE even contemplated this idea to begin with. Dave Meltzer noted on the Wrestling Observer radio show this week that WWE planned as of Monday, after Raw, late Monday, to go ahead with AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan and air it during Crown Jewel, only it wouldn't be in Saudi Arabia. In fact, it would have been a unique gimmick match instead, where no fans were able to see it because it would take place in an empty arena. That's laughable, if you ask me. Really, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? They're going to wrestle in a ring with no fucking audience? What sense did that make for this fucking feud? None. That's a last-ditch fucking goon-like suggestion by WWE Creative. He says, and I quote, "They almost did AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan in an empty arena match. That was in the offering to air during the show, but I think the feeling was that they would call more attention to the fact that Daniel Bryan wouldn't go to the show. And I think they want that to be as quiet as possible, so they just did the angle that they did on SmackDown to do it that way, which I actually think ended up working out better for them, because it actually gives us the match. We see the match the way it should have been presented, and Samoa Joe now is in the WWE Championship picture again. He's getting a match with AJ because AJ Styles said, listen, Joe is back. I got to finish this guy once and for all. It offers, like I said just before, a lot of creative openness if WWE wants to give the title to Samoa Joe. And I actually like that Joe is being added here. So I like the way that WWE went about it. They actually did something right. The simplest way possible to get Daniel Bryan off the show. He wanted the match now instead of on Friday. AJ Styles said, you know what? Fuck Friday. Let's do it on Tuesday. And then, boom, Samoa Joe leaves them both laying. So you got Joe and Styles continuing at Crown Jewel. He choked out Bryan, which will probably get some Joe versus Bryan matches out of it. And we'll have a nice little back and forth for the WWE Championship on SmackDown Live. The way it should have been. Joe should have won the title at Hell in a Cell. That's just me. But that's the way they went about it, and they did it the right way. So he goes on to say, Meltzer continues, and I quote, but even as late as Monday, they were still doing an empty arena match. There was talk of doing it live. There was talk of doing it on tape. There was talk of doing it with a screen that would act like it was Saudi Arabia and not showing it in the Saudi, to the Saudi people, so people wouldn't get mad in the arena. Maybe doing it in intermission in Saudi Arabia and putting it on during intermission and acting like it's there. But they figured it out, and they figured if they did it with a screen showing Saudi Arabia, then there would be the crowd wouldn't be reacting to the match because they weren't seeing it live, so it wouldn't be so obviously fake, so they couldn't do that. The idea of an empty arena match, in today's wrestling, empty arena matches are probably going to suck because crowds, they've seen every move in the world, and the only thing they get off on is the crowd getting off. That is what determines a good match now. I agree. Crowds ultimately have the power to kill a show and make the show fucking memorable. So having Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles also, if you want to tack it on to being fucking stupid, it would not be, I guess it wouldn't really give to the match that we're getting. It would honestly be a slap in the face to the match that I'm sure those two would have put on. So that's what determines a good match now, and I completely agree with Meltzer. Did you get the crowd going at a certain pace? Because it's not like you can do a whole bunch of moves and impress people because everybody does all sorts of moves. So an empty arena match is almost for sure going to suck. So there's an issue with that as well. End quote. I absolutely agree with Meltzer. It was fucking a creative stupidity. It was creative stupidity. And the fact that crowds ultimately determine a show, I absolutely agree with him on that as well. It looks like we got our answer about where they're going with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. Obviously, it happened at SmackDown Live instead of on Friday. But only time will tell if WWE will get brave enough to try an empty arena match in the future. But apparently, they almost did here just to give this scheduled match to the Saudi people. I'm glad that they didn't, because it would have been very fucking lame. And I'm being completely honest with you there. Hulk Hogan, speaking of fucking lame, and something that I don't really give a shit about, it's quite the coincidence that Hulk Hogan still is asking for people's forgiveness and still trying to get back into the spotlight. He still has dirt all over his name, and it just goes hand in hand with all the controversy that Crown Jewel is getting, that they're bringing back Hulk Hogan in front of these people to make his WWE return, man. How the world comes full circle. Really. And I guess the Prince Solomon over there is living in the fucking 80s because he wants Hulk Hogan on the show. WWE Crown Jewel will be a controversial event in Saudi Arabia, and they might be bringing more criticism for this next move. Now, it's being reported that Hulk Hogan is confirmed and will be attending Crown Jewel, and how excited he is about going to Crown Jewel. So now it seems like WWE has quietly confirmed his appearance because the Hulkster is featured in the attending superstars section on WWE.com for this global event. As you can see, the biggest names promoted for the show are Rollins, Lesnar, and Strowman. And Hogan is right there wearing the yellow and red, wearing his fucking sunglasses and his boa. Only time will tell how Hogan will be used, but we've kind of assumed that he might be like, I guess, the master of ceremonies for this show. I don't know what the fuck he's going to be doing. He may have a segment with Elias. I don't know. I don't care. He may end up giving out the fucking trophy for the World Cup at the end of the tournament. I have no fucking idea. Maybe he'll be presenting the World Cup, but WWE will have to come up with ideas for Hulk Hogan, and we will find out what happens on Friday. So, that is that. I am sure you are gleaming with excitement to see Hulk Hogan at Crown Jewel. Someone else who is expected to be at Crown Jewel on Friday. This was reported by that fucking pussy Ryan Satin, who wanted to block me on social media because I called him a snowflake in his stance towards women wrestling, and the fact that he does not criticize the product when they deserve criticism. Everything is just fucking rainbows and sunshine to that motherfucker. But Renee Young, as reported by Pro Wrestling Sheet, will be working Friday's Crown Jewel event. Pro Wrestling Sheet reports that sources have told them that WWE has been working on making this happen dating back to September. As of this writing, it's unclear if Renee will have certain guidelines or rules she will have to follow because of the country's numerous restrictions for women. This is going to be very interesting. I urge Renee Young to go into Crown Jewel with eyes in the back of your head. I would fear for my life if I'm Renee Young. That's just me. And we'll see what happens, man. Normally, we would see her on the commentary team. She may be doing the pre-show, and it may just be Corey Graves and Byron Saxton and Michael Cole doing the commentary. But Renee Young, we don't know what her role is going to be, whether it's going to be at the commentary booth or at the pre-show at 11 o'clock. We don't know. So Renee Young is expected to work Crown Jewel on Friday. That is being confirmed by multiple sources. WWE figured out, remember that global event? Quote unquote, they figured out a very clever way to avoid saying Saudi Arabia on TV. WWE Crown Jewel has been full of controversy, and WWE has nixed any mention of Saudi Arabia on air in the weeks leading up to the event. So WWE is now referring to Crown Jewel as a global pay-per-view event instead of mentioning the actual location. It was a tactic used on commentary by Tom Phillips, and everybody felt it was fed to him through the headset by Vince McMahon. Now, this is clever. This is a clever way to, I guess, get around the words Saudi Arabia. But when you think about it, all pay-per-views are global events. You know, the one in Australia was a global event, right? Anywhere in the world, it's a global event. And they are seen across the planet. If you have the network and you're in Australia, the Crown Jewel event in Saudi Arabia to you is a global event. However, maybe it's the best that WWE can come up with right now, and we should just not dive too deep into their logic here at this point. Whatever the case may be, by Friday night, this will all be over, and we can move on from this mess known as Crown Jewel. WWE is actually expected to take a huge stock hit with Crown Jewel, and this also plays into the reason why WWE went ahead and did the show in Saudi Arabia after all the controversy. Now, WWE superstars are arriving early to Saudi Arabia. They're all there for the event already. And it looks like the company is going to carry on with their 10-year deal with the Saudi government. In fact, WWE saw this negativity coming and knew there was no way around the big stock market hit either way. Brad Shepard reports that a source in WWE opened up to him and said the following about the Crown Jewel event in regards to what they knew it would do to the impact of the company. And I quote, this is from a WWE source being relayed to us by Brad Shepard. Both canceling or confirming Crown Jewel was going to be a stock hit, and that's how they saw it. Keep in mind, people have been in Saudi Arabia building the set and prepping for the show a couple of weeks now. You are damned regardless, and the stock was going down either way. There are a lot of other factors as well. Ticket sales were down, and this is where it gets interesting, why the stock took a hit. And when you tell me that everything that you're seeing doesn't have a direct impact on this fucking stock, you're a goddamn fucking fool. There were other factors as well. Ticket sales for WWE across the board were down, merchandise sales were down, and TV ratings have been down, all which played a factor in WWE stock taking a hit. It just wasn't Crown Jewel. So when the next time someone tells me, oh, the ratings don't matter, they certainly matter to the fucking stock, being that they are a direct impact hit to WWE stock prices when quality of television is the way it is. And right now it's at horrendous fucking highs. That is a direct hit to WWE. So next time someone wants to argue with me, well, they're making all this kinds of money. They could do whatever the fuck they want. No, they can't. Put on good television and shut the fuck up. I knew ratings were going to matter. Oh, they don't matter. They certainly matter to the fucking investors of the stock. They matter to the stockholders. Bullshit. I'm glad. I hope the stock continues to go down. At that point, WWE might actually change something. Because we all know Monday Night Raw needs something to be changed. Something about that show, a direction of that show needs to be changed. So fuck you and your, oh, well, they're making all this money. The ratings don't matter. Yes, it does matter. The quality of programming that they put on is directly affecting everything else that they do. It might not be as much as everything else that they got going on, but it certainly is a factor. WWE stock was almost at $100 a share. So the stock was going down either way. And I mentioned all those other factors. These things caught up with them, and then you throw in the Saudi drama. End quote. $100 a share, and it started to slide big time. Ironically, it didn't slide down until after so many WWE execs unloaded a ton of stock. They got out. Everybody that was there, they got out with the Saudi, dilemma. So like, oh, let me cash out. So clearly, everything had a factor on the stock. So it looks like the company certainly knew something was going to happen, and their stocks weren't going to be that high for long. Hopefully, it will rebound if you guys are dealing with the stock once Fox and their deal is finalized and comes into effect. But you never know what could happen in WWE. So there you go. So TV ratings and the quality of television do matter. Merchandise does matter. Ticket sales do matter. So please don't tell me that ratings don't matter. Please don't tell me that the amount of television that we see that's fucking horrendous week in and week out doesn't matter. It does. It does. Get on the ball and start producing better television, and then everything else will slowly, you got to build that trust back up, slowly start righting itself. It's going to be a while. Because those people that don't watch the show anymore, they don't know. Or they won't know if you put on a good show because they're already gone. You frustrated them to the point where they don't give a fuck. You frustrated them to the point where if they miss 5 weeks of Monday Night Raw, you come back in the 6th week, you didn't miss a goddamn fucking thing. So it's going to take a while for word of mouth to get back to those people. Hey, Monday Night Raw is putting on good television again. Slow but sure, they will start to come back. But worry about the TV product, please. I don't understand why there's so little care that goes into the quality of the TV program. I don't understand it. Speaking of the Universal Championship, man, we got a couple more stories here. There was a rumor killer as of this week on the big change to the Universal Championship match at Crown Jewel. I reported on Off the Script Part 3 that went up on Monday that WWE was teasing or contemplating adding Drew McIntyre to the Crown Jewel Universal Championship match between Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Now, this story popped up in theory that Drew McIntyre could be added to the Universal title match at Crown Jewel. This might make sense in regards to giving Strowman someone to pin that he's feuding with and keeping the match a triple threat idea, but apparently that was not the case at all. Brad Shepard has confirmed through a source in WWE that there was never any consideration of placing McIntyre in the Universal title match at Crown Jewel. Of course, this doesn't mean that he won't be next in line to take on Braun Strowman if he's able to bring home the big red belt, because they still have unfinished business. But the plan wasn't for this match to receive that much of a facelift so close to the show. WWE needed to switch up enough things for Crown Jewel, from placing Samoa Joe in the WWE title match and pulling John Cena for the event, but there wasn't a time when Drew McIntyre was even penciled in for a triple threat match with Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. Now, a lot of you guys have come to me after I gave you scenario after scenario after scenario about Survivor Series. AJ versus Strowman, AJ versus Lesnar 2, Joe versus Strowman, Joe versus Lesnar. You know, a lot of those matches make sense. So WWE should have tunnel vision when thinking about Survivor Series. A lot of you guys have come to me stating that, JD, I don't think there's going to be a decision. I don't think there's going to be a decision or a champion crowned at Crown Jewel because of Drew McIntyre. A lot of you guys are predicting Drew McIntyre is actually going to cause a no contest here and no champion will be crowned because WWE might not fully be invested in Braun Strowman being the Universal Champion. They might not see him as the guy. But whose fault is that? That's completely their fault because they put everything in the Roman basket. Also, something that I didn't really think of because, you know, it's really a one-off for him, I believe. I don't think we're going to be seeing Brock Lesnar after this unless they really do give him the championship. I can't see Brock Lesnar being pinned. I really can't. WWE has not really had him go into a ring and be pinned at all outside of Roman Reigns. So if WWE is going to give Braun Strowman this huge of a rub at Crown Jewel and pin Brock Lesnar, you know, that's a pretty big deal. Could you see that happening? Maybe Drew McIntyre does get involved. He's not on the show. Ziggler is, so you know McIntyre is going to be there. And if Braun Strowman is in the Universal Championship match and Braun Strowman has an issue with Drew McIntyre and vice versa, he might get involved. Just for the sake of not pinning Brock Lesnar. Maybe WWE doesn't see Braun Strowman as the guy worthy enough to pin Brock Lesnar. We've seen it back at No Mercy. It should have been done there. It should have been done a month before with Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire. But they didn't do it. Now you want to do it. When to me, I think Braun Strowman is actually worse off than he's ever been. Creatively. We'll see what happens, man. Drew McIntyre might be the saving grace, and it might actually be a little bit more intriguing if Drew McIntyre stalls crowning a new Universal Champion and we get some sort of tournament at Survivor Series. I don't know. Or maybe a triple threat match at Survivor Series. Maybe Brock is working Survivor Series. I don't know. Nobody knows his UFC schedule. Nobody. Nobody knows the deal he signed with WWE. He may be with the WWE through WrestleMania, and we don't even fucking know. We don't know. But what is the possibility of Brock Lesnar becoming the Universal Champion at Crown Jewel? I will talk about that in just a second, but being that I just hit 100,000 subscribers, man, I want you guys to know that the 100,000 subscriber commemorative t-shirt is now on sale at barbershopwindow.com/offthescript. Make sure you guys go and get your t-shirts today, man. You can even save 20% off your new t-shirts, man. Use code BSHOP20 for 20% off. And if you guys want a bigger picture, there you go, man. Look at that design that you're going to be getting to support 100K on YouTube, man. Absolutely beautiful. Go and support by buying a t-shirt. That is one of 17 designs on Barbershop Window, man. So make sure you guys go do that. We got the best designs in the podcast game. No question. No fucking Photoshop, shitty-looking t-shirts on Teespring. Nothing that's done in 5 minutes. This is legit fucking artistry happening right before you, man. Go and get your t-shirts. barbershopwindow.com/offthescript. Use code BSHOP20 for 20% off and join one of the 100,000 right here on Off the Script, man. Thank you guys so very much for all your support. Now, Bryan Alvarez discussed the likelihood on Wrestling Observer Live of Brock Lesnar pulling out a win in Saudi Arabia against Braun Strowman and having Lesnar continue on with another run as Universal Champion. It's not out of the question. I guess, in some weird sense, Vince McMahon finds comfort and solace in Brock Lesnar, and he may go with something that he knows is a comfortable idea for him until the ship is actually righted. We don't know. So, Crown Jewel in itself, outside Shawn Michaels and this whole Crown Jewel situation with the Universal Championship, it could be an interesting situation for the show. It may get those people who don't want to watch the show to actually watch the show. It's going to be interesting. Bryan Alvarez says, Brock was supposed to lose at WrestleMania, and at the last second, Vince decided he was going to pay Lesnar a ton of money to come back for 2 more matches, including the Greatest Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. So it's not possible that Brock could win and then pay out the ass to get him back for Survivor Series. But why? Just put the title on Braun Strowman and be done with it. It would cost Brock Lesnar lots of money to come back for Survivor Series, and he sure isn't generating that money to come back for Survivor Series. I can tell you that much. There's no Saudi money for Survivor Series, end quote. A lot of people are in that boat. Just put the title on Strowman and be done with it, but WWE might be thinking otherwise. And, Brock Lesnar's always got this mystique about him that, you think something's going to happen with Brock Lesnar, and 9 times out of 10, the opposite happens with Brock Lesnar. So we don't really know. We don't know what Vince McMahon and Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman have discussed before Crown Jewel actually takes place. Now, Brock could very well have a surprise win and become the Universal Champion. This also will likely mean that he will need to sign on for more than one match, seeing how he can't lose the title at Survivor Series in a non-title match going up against the WWE Champion. But if WWE doesn't want to pay outrageous sums of money to acquire Brock Lesnar's services again, there is a babyface, lukewarm babyface at this point, not to the point he was last year, in Braun Strowman waiting to finally become the Universal Champion. And it sucks that Braun Strowman has gotten to this point, and even still we're contemplating, should we do it or should we not do it? This guy was one of the surest things on your show, and you fucked everything up by catering to Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns and creativeness, or the creativity gone towards Roman Reigns, fucked everybody else over on Monday Night Raw. Fucked Seth Rollins up, fucked Dean Ambrose up, it fucked Braun Strowman up, it fucked the entire roster up. Bobby Lashley got fucked up. So here we are. Now we're contemplating, should we do it? Should we not do it? And we're contemplating even now, where people are still talking about, well, Brock Lesnar makes the most sense after everyone shit all over his Universal title reign. Unbelievable. It's going to be interesting to say the least. I mentioned Drew McIntyre. Could he play a factor in this? Could we get a screw job finish at Crown Jewel? Dave Meltzer addressed the idea during Wrestling Observer Radio of the ending of the Universal title match in a way that would leave the door open for a continued program for Brock Lesnar. But we might be more likely to see a cut and dry finish in Saudi Arabia instead due to Lesnar's current contract status. He says, and I quote, "They're not going to do a screw job finish because either Lesnar's going to win or he's gone, one way or the other. I mean, it's like they're not going to do some draw or anything like that. They very well could. McIntyre's the wild card there. He says that they're not going to do a draw or anything like that," end quote. So we can expect there to be a new Universal Champion at Crown Jewel, as of right now. After all, Brock Lesnar is very expensive, and nobody knows at this point what his current WWE commitments are past November 2nd, or if he even has anything planned at all. Lesnar could very well leave Crown Jewel after putting Braun Strowman over, so he can continue his MMA training for his eventual UFC return, but you never really know what could happen in WWE, especially with Brock Lesnar, and especially at a time like this where they're obviously trying to fucking fix the pieces after Roman Reigns' departure. So we don't know what's going to happen, man. Meltzer says don't expect a screw job finish. I'm telling you, leave the door open for one. Because it's certainly possible that WWE, even at this hour, doesn't know what they're going to do. We got 2 more pieces of information here, man, before we get out of here. Kurt Angle. Everybody's talking about Kurt Angle making his in-ring solo return to the WWE. How far is Kurt Angle supposed to last in the World Cup tournament at Crown Jewel. Mike Johnson stated on PW Insider Audio that Angle's promo on Raw, along with the build and hype WWE put forth about his participation, would lead to a logical conclusion that Angle isn't going down in the opening round of the tournament. He says, and I quote, "I don't know what the finish is going to be, but the way they are building up Kurt Angle on television, you got to think that Kurt is at least going to go into the second round, because they're really pushing Kurt hard going into this, so we'll see." And I think Kurt Angle has the perfect opponent in Dolph Ziggler. He's got the safest opponent in Dolph Ziggler. And I think Dolph is going to bring a great match out of Kurt Angle. And I'm actually very excited to see what those two could do in the ring together. So, in one night, Kurt Angle is going to be wrestling two of the very best that WWE has to offer. So we'll see how much he still has left in the tank in a match with Ziggler and certainly with Seth Rollins. It wasn't too long ago when Kurt Angle needed to step in Roman Reigns' place as a member of the Shield when Reigns was out with the mumps. Angle hasn't worked much since then, but at 49 years old, Angle can still perform at a high level. WWE Crown Jewel might test his limits in the World Cup, like I said, with Ziggler and possible Rollins in the second round, but he looks to be training hard, so he'll likely be more ready for Saudi Arabia when the time comes. Angle will not make it past the semifinals. That is my prediction. Finally, guys, what was the original booking plan for the World Cup at Crown Jewel? I told you guys that with John Cena, he was supposed to be in the opening round against Rey Mysterio. Clearly, I guess if you want to look at it, John Cena, last that we seen was a Raw superstar. So, Raw versus SmackDown. Or I guess Free Agent versus SmackDown. But they were supposed to do Raw versus SmackDown in every match in the first round, second round, and then eventually in the final. Why did WWE change this format for the World Cup tournament? Again, Mike Johnson said on PW Insider Elite Audio that the way that you see it now wasn't WWE's original plan for the tournament. The original plan, he says, and I quote, was to kind of have the talents mixed up. In fact, at one point, we were told that John Cena was going to wrestle Rey Mysterio in the first round, like I mentioned in the beginning of this show, and then the decision was made to keep the Raw and SmackDown talents separated until the final, because the final would also serve as sort of a preview for Survivor Series, which will have a Raw versus SmackDown theme. End quote. So it looks like WWE does have some booking plans beyond Crown Jewel, which will directly affect the Survivor Series. If anything, they will have a new Universal Champion, and if their current booking strategy seems to be running through the event, the top two names of Raw and SmackDown will likely battle during the World Cup tournament. So that is where they're going with that. I actually think this, I guess their reasoning for it, I got to give WWE some props. It looks like they got some sort of plan going into the Survivor Series. I think it would have been better off for the tournament to have Raw versus SmackDown matches because, those are things that we don't normally see. But then on the other side of the coin, I only like to see Raw versus SmackDown at the Survivor Series and what they've built up over the last 2 years. So I think it makes it more special if it's in the finals, and then you keep it integrated into the Survivor Series. Because if we've seen another event this year for WWE, because it's a big special event in another country where Raw versus SmackDown matches happen and there's no story to it, at least there's story in the SmackDown side and there's story, I guess, somewhat in the Raw side. And you just build towards Raw versus SmackDown in the finals. I think that's a nice compact way to build things up and go into the Survivor Series. Even though it would have been, at a glance, a little bit more intriguing to find a Rey Mysterio versus a Seth Rollins in the first round, or a Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle, right? Or a Miz versus, I guess, Dolph Ziggler again, or something like that. Randy Orton versus Kurt Angle. They could have mixed it up any which way they wanted. But I think this is more compact. And, the way I've always liked things, think ahead. Think how this is going to affect the Survivor Series. And with WWE adding that nice little wrinkle on SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon said, listen, if you're going to be in the finals and you ain't going to bring home the Crown Jewel World Cup tournament to SmackDown Live, you ain't going to have a home on SmackDown Live. So that also plays into not only the tournament, but Survivor Series as well. And it could also be playing into the next feud with Shane McMahon. So that will only reveal itself when the time is right. Going to be interesting, man. There's a lot of this show that I don't really care for, but there's little nuggets here that I actually am intrigued by. What's going to happen with the Universal Championship? Will we get a champion crowned? Will it be Braun Strowman? Will it be Brock Lesnar? Will Samoa Joe win the WWE Championship? Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement. So there's a lot to this show that is going to be newsworthy, and I want to cover it for you guys, and I will do that Friday, right after the show is over. I just hope it doesn't go 5 hours long because I want to enjoy my Friday afternoon. But thank you guys so very much, man. This, I guess, was the unofficial start to Off the Script this weekend. Everything you guys need to know going into Crown Jewel. Hope you enjoyed it. Are you excited about the show? Do you care at all? If not, sound off down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about Crown Jewel. Are you going to be live tweeting with me? Are you interested in watching my review of the show? Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below, man. Sound off. Follow me on social media, man. Please do so. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206 on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button. Give that bell the middle finger. And please, if you want to join the Patreon page, man, patreon.com/JD from NY206. Make sure you guys go out and get your t-shirts, man. barbershopwindow.com/offthescript. Use code BSHOP20 for 20% off. And remember, man, show some love to Harry's. Harry's.com/script. I'm getting out of here, guys. Hit that thumbs up, and I will see you all Friday for Crown Jewel right here on the podcast. Crown Jewel official review and results tomorrow afternoon. I'll talk to you guys then. Enjoy your Thursdays, and I'll see you Friday for Crown Jewel. I'll talk to you later.